This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 386 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, TotalSaddleFit.com, and Horseware Winter Grooming Kit. Today we have a show dedicated to the Charlotte Dujardin Clinic held last weekend in Toronto. We're going to talk to Nancy Stanton and Tina Irwin about their experiences riding in the clinic. And of course, we have the Total Saddle Fit Trainer Tip of the Week.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with just Reese and I. We have no producer. We're on our own. We're getting wild and crazy.
By ourselves. I know. We haven't been left to our own devices for a while, Phil. Oh, my Lord. I know. Yeah. And I'm super excited. Okay. We're actually recording early this week because you and Meredith are coming down to visit Travis and I. We're so looking forward to your visit on Thursday. So I'm already stretching for my lesson on Friday morning. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, you've only got me for one day though. So
I know, only got you for one day. So with my precious
we're heading down to Nashville. We thought we'd check out the Nashville music scene and just all the stuff that's going on there. Mary and I need a weekend away, basically. That's
I know, and
long and the short of it. Away, yeah. So
provide a place to sleep and hang out with you guys. And I'm jealous. I've actually never done that. And Nashville's 3 hours from our house. So, but I'm so looking forward to having you both visit. And so we're a little bit early with our show. And I am so happy about this show. I was really bummed I wasn't able to come. I've just been traveling too much. I really had to stay home and get some work done here. So I wasn't able to come to the Charlotte Dujardin Clinic because everybody knows how much I love Charlotte. And I was so bummed, Phil, but it looks like you guys had a blast.
We had a great time. And I have to tell you, Reese, I actually shook her hand and talked to her. So if you want, I won't wash this hand until I see you.
Yeah, just touch me. Oh, she sounds like just as lovely in person.
Lovely. It was really lovely.
Know.
And Scott Hayes, SH Productions, put on just a wonderful weekend. I don't think it got a bad review from anyone ever, that I've talked to at all. Educational and really fun to catch up with some people I haven't seen in a little while. And and it was super well attended. I just thought what a wonderful weekend that we had, and the weather was nice, and yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I am so jealous, but you're going to hear some great stuff from the show today. We've got Nancy Stanton and Tina Irwin, both sides of the spectrum. And Nancy had a 4-year-old and Tina had an FEI, very well-established FEI horse now. So super fun to have them both on the show. So I think we will get started. And right after this commercial break, we have a Kentucky Performance Product Tip of the Month with Karen Isberg. I hope you enjoy.
She had waited all her life for this moment, dreaming about it since she was 10 years old. The trailer ramp touched the ground. He whinnied as she backed him out, swinging his head around to get a good look at his new home. His coat gleamed in the sun. Her love had arrived. She was breathless. He was beautiful. She could hardly wait to tack him up and start off on what she was sure would be the best times of her life. This love story is brought to you by Contribute, providing essential omega-3 fatty acids that help maintain low inflammation levels throughout your horse's body. The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Call 859-873-2974 or visit kppusa.com to order today.
And once again, I get to do the supplement segment here on the Dressage Radio Show with Karen Isberg from Kentucky Performance Products. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you, Jen. It's a beautiful day here in Kentucky. What's it like down there?
It is fantastic. The weather has broken. It was cool and beautiful this morning when I went outdoors. Fantastic.
Oh, don't you love it? We had a horse show this weekend, and it was just so nice not to be 107 in the shade. I was very happy.
It's such a relief when the weather gets to that point where the sweat's not dripping into your eyes anymore.
Yes.
It's a fantastic
thing. And you don't realize how oppressively hot it was until you have one of these beautiful days where it's just cool and the sun is out and the horses are happy, and it just is wonderful.
Yay.
I love it.
Yay. And guess what? Winter is right around the corner. And once winter rolls around, and it's going to get here faster than we think, everybody's going to be freaking out because they need to get weight on their horse. They need to get more fiber into their horse. And today's topic, beet pulp, is something that's going to be on everybody's mind very shortly.
Exactly. And, you can use beet pulp in multiple different situations, and that's why I end up talking about it a lot. So oftentimes, I'll be talking to somebody on the phone that has an easy keeper that needs some supplements, and they're like, but I don't feed him anything, I don't feed him any grain. What am I going to do? And that's when I recommend beet pulp. And then on the flip side, if you have a hard keeper that you just have a lot of trouble getting enough calories in, then you can use beet pulp to add additional fiber as an energy source, especially if you're dealing with low quality hay, if there's hay shortages or things like that. So it's a great product to use. It has a lot of different uses. Real quick, beet pulp is a byproduct of the sugar beet industry. It's the pulp that's left over after the sugar has been removed. It's easily fermented or broken down by the microflora in your horse's hind gut, and that's why it contributes energy to the horse. And it contributes energy to the horse itself, and also to the microflora in the gut. So you're doing, you're servicing two digestive tracts at that point, the little microbe and your horse.
I didn't know that.
Double benefit. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that it fed the guys.
That's why it's called super fiber.
Aha. Yep. So a pound. Now, when one is measuring beet pulp and saying how much beet pulp do I give my horse, it's always measured dry. So when somebody says your horse should have a pound of beet pulp, you measure it out a pound of dry, and then you rehydrate. Now, a lot of people say you daresn't feed beet pulp unless it's been rehydrated. Where do you stand on that?
That has been proven to be false. That's just an old wives' tale. The old wives' tale goes because people saw how much moisture it absorbed in the bucket. They think, oh, you put that in your horse's stomach, it's going to absorb all the moisture, and your horse's stomach is going to pop. And that's just not true.
Oh,
so it doesn't work that way. It moves through the gut, and as it moves through the gut, it picks up moisture, and as it moves through the gut, it's quickly digested, and it's not a problem. So you can feed it dry, or you can feed it soaked. Now, some people also are concerned with choke, and they'll say, oh, you can't feed it dry because it'll cause a horse to choke. But just like anything, choke is caused by a lack of lubrication in between the mouth and the stomach. So if you have a horse that eats too fast, then he doesn't have enough saliva to lubricate the food as it goes down the trachea, or not the trachea, the esophagus. Or if they're not drinking enough, if they're an old horse that has an issue and it's not chewing things well enough, then that stops it from moving down the esophagus. So if you have a horse that you've had issues with choke, or if you're worried about that, then just add some water to your beet pulp. And don't worry about it.
There you go. So everybody talks about using beet pulp as adding calories to their diet. How does it compare to a pound of oats or a pound of hay calorie-wise?
Okay, well, the digestible energy is 1.3 to 1.5 megacalories per pound. So that's the digestible energy number. And that falls somewhere between alfalfa hay and oats.
Oh.
Yep.
Very interesting.
It's right there in the middle. It's about 15% fiber. It runs 8 to 10% protein. But it's not a good source of lysine. And lysine is the first limiting amino acid in a horse's diet. In other words, proteins are made out of amino acids. They're like the building blocks. And you have to have certain amino acids to make a protein. And lysine is one of the most important ones. So it's very important that a horse has enough lysine in their diet. So if you have a young horse, then you want to be careful if you're feeding more than 3 pounds of beet pulp a day that you add some lysine to the diet, because beet pulp is not a good source of lysine. For most of your older horses, if they're getting any kind of a concentrate and they're getting hay, they're getting enough lysine. And you don't feed more than 3 pounds of beet pulp a day, then you don't have to be concerned about it. Beet pulp doesn't have a lot of vitamins in it. It also is high in calcium and low in phosphorus and selenium. So again, you want to stay around that 3-pound mark. If you feed more than 3 pounds a day of beet pulp, you want to make sure you balance that ration with a ration balancer for vitamins and minerals, so you don't run into trouble with imbalances.
So I'm seeing a lot more feed companies using beet pulp as one of the major ingredients in their feed concentrates. And whenever you use beet pulp that way, the feed company has taken care of that balancing act, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, they do. The feed, most of your concentrates are called fortified concentrates. So a nutritionist has looked at that, and they have balanced that food, that feed stuff. So they put in whatever ingredients they have, like oats and beet pulp and soy hulls and other good things for your horse. And then they add what they call balancing pellet to it, which has the vitamins and minerals needed for the horse. As long as it's fed at the correct rates, then you'll get the vitamins and minerals you need.
So that's kind of the basics of beet pulp. Is there anything else we need to know about beet pulp?
Well, just a couple of fun facts.
Fun facts. I love fun facts.
Yeah, when you're using hay to replace beet pulp,
or vice versa.
Calorie-wise, it's basically 1 to 1.5 pounds of hay per every pound of beet pulp. Mm-hmm. So you can do that. And you can replace some of your hay with beet pulp because beet pulp is a super fiber. But you don't want to replace it all, obviously, because you can't feed enough. And 2, because your horse needs a certain amount of long stem fiber in their system. We already talked about beet pulp can be fed dry or soaked. You add, when you go to soak it, you add 2 times as much water as the beet pulp, and you let it sit. It can sit for 15 minutes, or it can sit for up to 2 hours. If you use warm water, the water will be absorbed faster than if you use cold water. But you don't want to use hot water, because that will decrease the nutrient value.
Interesting.
Didn't know that. Cook it. Yeah, that's no. You don't want to cook it. And then once you can soak it in the winter when it's cold, you can leave soaked beet pulp sitting out for about 12 hours before it starts to ferment. But in warm conditions, you have to be really careful because it'll ferment and mold much quicker.
Yeah, I found that out.
You're in Florida, so you know.
Yeah, we don't like to let ours sit out more than about 2 hours. During the daytime here. And one of the things we did when I lived in Massachusetts, I had about 40 horses under my care, and the horses were only there in the winter because they were fox hunting horses. So everybody got beet pulp every day. And what we did was take a big 5-gallon pail and drill it full of holes, so it essentially created a sieve, and we'd fill it with beet pulp about halfway because, of course, it expands. And we'd fill that with water, and we'd set it inside of an old refrigerator that was in the feed room. And we took all the racks out of the refrigerator so it could sit inside. And then in the morning, we do it in the evening. In the morning, we take it out and take it across the hallway to the wash rack, pull that sieve out and set it on the ground, let the water run out of it, and then feed it, and then start the process anew at the end of it. So in the evening, that same bucket would be filled up again. And it worked out really conveniently to feed a huge amount of beet pulp to all these horses.
And had it all ready to go.
It's all ready to go.
Fluffy and light and soft after it's soaked in all that water.
Yeah, and it was easy to do, and it didn't ferment because it was inside of a refrigerator. So even if it was warmer, it stayed fresh. But I totally get it with the fermenting thing. That can happen in a heartbeat. So if you've been soaking beet pulp and you take the lid off of it, or you stick your nose in there and it smells a little bit like beer, don't use that.
Don't feed it.
No.
Not good. Absolutely. And for people that have sugar-sensitive horses, they want to get the sugar-free beet pulp without molasses in it. That's important. I think most people use the sugar-free anyway now. If you have a horse that's picky, you can feed some molasses to them. It's not going to hurt them as long as they're not insulin resistant or really susceptible to starch and sugars. That's fine. It'll help them eat it. But most people like to use the sugar-free.
See, I get the regular kind.
Yeah, and if you are adding supplements to it, which is one of the main reasons I recommend beet pulp, is, again, like I said at the beginning when we first started talking, is, you don't want to feed your horse a cup of grain. They're not getting anything from it. It's not enough to give them vitamins and minerals. So you need something to put your supplements in. You need something to put your microphase, your vitamin and mineral pellet in. you need something to put your Caraform hoof and coat conditioner in. Well, then you mix up some beet pulp. You mix it in. It's just before you feed it. You don't want to let it sit in that moisture because that tends to break down vitamins and minerals. It's not particularly good for, well, especially the vitamins. And then you feed that to your horse, and he'll just be happy. And you'll know that the beet pulp is helping his hind gut to remain healthy, and that you're giving him some calories, and you're getting your supplements in all at once.
There we go. A great solution to carry your horse's required supplements into his tummy happily and safely.
Yes.
There we go. Well, thank you very much, Karen. For folks who have even more question marks floating around above their head than they did before, how can they find KPP or Kentucky Performance Products?
Well, they can go on the World Wide Web there and go to kppusa.com. We have a really great blog called Tips and Topics that just has tons and tons of articles about all kinds of things on it. If you don't find what you're looking for there, you can call us from Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, at 859-873-2974. We can answer your questions there. And then you can always visit us on Facebook. We put up lots of posts, and you can leave us a Facebook message, and we'll get back to you there. So several ways to get a hold of us.
There we go. Well, thank you very much, Karen, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. It was good to talk to you today, Jennifer.
Well, our next guest is Nancy Stanton. She is a USDF bronze, silver, and gold medalist and trainer from Northeast Ohio. And she's here to talk with us about her wonderful young horse, High Voltage, and his experience at the Charlotte Dujardin Clinic in Canada. Welcome to the show, Nancy.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
We're happy to have you. So I have loved this young horse. I was lucky enough. I got to see you guys last year this time. He was a 3-year-old, and he's just a fancy guy. So tell us all about this young boy.
Oh, let's see. I bought him about 1.5 years ago from High Valley Hanoverians down in Georgia. He was unbroke. He'd had a saddle, a bridle on him, but I wanted to be the first to sit on him. So we broke him last year and kind of played with him, took him to that Christine Troward clinic where you saw him, and then have been showing him this year. And I love this horse. He's the love of my life. He's so much fun.
And he is a looker. I'm just saying, he's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure about all the white, but I'm okay with it now. I got a stock in Quicksilver, so I'm okay with all the white now.
Yeah, and if you really don't like his look, you can just drop him off at my farm. I'll take him. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people keep telling me.
So tell us about kind of leading up to the clinic and what it was like to be in Canada.
We had a blast in Canada. Yeah,
I love Canada.
It was awesome.
Canada.
Oh my God, we had so much fun. One of my clients put the whole thing together. She found it online. I had nothing to do with it. She did the bio, the video, everything. And I just, all summer long, she kept reminding me, get your passport renewed, which of course I ignored her because there's no way they're going to pick a dopey 4-year-old. And, about 3 weeks before the clinic, I got the notification we got in and I still had no passport.
Oh, that's bad.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that was a week of rushing around getting that together and expediting a passport. Because why would I think that they would pick him? We found out well, and we found out they had over 200 applicants for the clinic.
Wow.
So I was like, holy crap! And they picked him out of all the horses. Wow. So I was really excited about that.
Yeah. So what was it like to sort of trailer a 4-year-old to Canada? I mean, that's a huge trip.
With him, it's easy. He's a piece of cake to trailer. He's a great traveler. Going to Canada, into Canada, we had no problems at the Canadian border. Coming home, we didn't realize, because I'd never trailered a horse to Canada, didn't realize you're supposed to stop at the border and get some paperwork filled out. And coming home, they threatened to confiscate my horse, and I told them if they did, they'd have to get me with him, and I was very high maintenance. So they were like, yeah, just let these girls go home. Just get them out of here.
Oops. Was that true, Phil? What paperwork do you need?
Well, we always have trouble with, getting into America. I mean, they're very sticky about all of these things and the sign, everything that needs to be signed and stamped and in
Yes.
triple carbonate or whatever they used to call it. Yeah, I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
Oops.
It's a
And then-
yeah, and I didn't realize you were supposed to stop on the way there and get like a 1490 form or some form that
Yeah.
they're supposed to have. I didn't know. We didn't know that, and the guy is like, "Where's this form?" And he's giving us this hard time, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I don't know. We didn't get the form."
That's why we
get a form.
normally just ship them professionally, because they know what they're doing and they just sort of do
Yeah.
everything for you. You know, you get your vet to sign the health certificate, and then the shipping companies sort of, they know how
They know
to
to
jump
stop
through
at the
hoops
border.
and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, they would have
So-
stopped at the border, like unlike we did.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah, I mean, it's government stuff, and they're always, sort of changing the requirements or adding a form or not having this form, and it's very hard to figure out, because I've had people, like experiences where they've actually called before they go over, just say, okay, we want to have all our ducks in order, and then when they get there, it's like, oh, it's totally different, and
A
it's like,
change. Yeah.
it just seems like whoever you're talking to on whatever day is, they are deciding what the rules are and which forms you need. So that's always been a problem.
Got it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So
But they
that's
let you
good
back,
to know.
so that's okay.
You're back in, so you're in good shape.
Yeah, we got back.
So what was it like? What was the clinic like?
The clinic was awesome. She was so nice. We got to ride with her for like 10 minutes the day before. She got to know the horses a little bit and kind of get a feel for what everybody was doing. And originally, I was supposed to ride separate. There were two. They thought, I don't know why, they thought he was a 5-year-old. There was supposed to be a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I'm like, no, he's a 4-year-old. And the other 4-year-old was much greener. So she decided to put the two of them together to kind of let them save each other, which was a good thing because the other 4-year-old needed him.
Yeah, that was a
to
good
get
idea.
around the ring.
That was a good idea
Yeah.
because yours seemed pretty confident and experienced, but the other was not. And so, I mean, to put them together, that was really good. I mean, the whole format of the clinic was I thought was pretty super
awesome.
because they started with the 4-year-olds. Yours was supposed to be 5, so but then they have a 6-year-old, and then sort of a second level horse and a third level horse, and then they did all the way up through the levels to a developing Grand Prix horse, and then a seasoned Grand Prix horse, and then at the very end she rode Renaissance Time, which is owned and shown by Evie Strasser, which Charlotte had ridden in New York the year before and done a demo ride, so she sort of knew that horse. So it sort of all culminated, on the second day to seeing Charlotte ride. So I thought that was a really great format idea, and it seemed to work out. Yeah, and then the two 4-year-olds going together was awesome, because one got to have a break and the other, your horse got to, you got your instruction, and then the young guys got lots of breaks because you were doing sort of a semi-private situation. So I just thought it all worked out really well.
I thought it did too. I thought it worked out really well, and the two of them, because like when mine would get a little nervous, he would look at the other one and he'd be like, "Oh, okay, we're fine now." And the same thing with the other. And I thought that worked out really, really well with the two young horses together. And it was a cool format how each level and each horse, she like built down from the horse previous session. And introducing her different exercises, I thought it was really cool.
So what were some things that you guys worked on with the 4-year-olds? What was her big shtick with that?
Forward. Lots of transitions in forward. She doesn't like to do a lot of sitting trot on the young horses. I've gone back and forth because I've worked with some Germans who are like, oh, they're broke, they're strong, sit on them, go. And so that was always kind of my mindset. And she was like, no, get up off their backs. And a lot of rising trot. I mean, I think she was even doing a lot of rising trot with the up into the Pre-St. George horse, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I thought there was a couple of horses that were a little sticky in the back, and so she did some half pass in rising trot, and that helped the particular horses to just be a little freer and a little bit more forward. And I think I think that was the overall common theme, is to take a risk on the horse and ride it forward and worry about the little things and the details later, especially with the young guys. I mean, you don't have to ride them that everything's perfect, right? So that was good, and that worked really well with your horse. I thought, sort of freed him up a little bit, and showed a little
Yes.
more expression and more movement, and
Yes.
especially when they're a little bit nervous, right? I mean, you know, you want
Oh,
to
God,
get
yeah.
them going. Yeah. So
Yep.
that was really nice to see.
Yeah, that was really nice. And and even some of the like St. George horses where she was yelling at them to be the people to be braver and like go to get them just out in front of the leg and then she would bring them back and collect, and you'd see all, like you said, so much more expression out of the horses. And that was really neat to see.
That's cool. That's fantastic. And how did
Mhm.
he handle the venue? It sounded like it was a really tight venue.
He handled it great. The only time that I actually thought that I might have an issue is one time when she had me, when we had taken a break and we had first picked up the canner, and he was like, I'm tired. And he was like doing this slow motion canner. And she even commented, she's like, that is the slowest canner I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah. Yeah, he was just like, I'm cannering nice. I'm just going to canner like this. And I'm like, I'm trying not to pony kick him, and I'm trying not to beat him with the whip, because she's like, stop using the whip, kick him. And I'm like, oh, he's not even responding anymore. He's tired. And so I'm like, oh my God. So she started clucking through the microphone, and I think it sounded like some people started clapping behind him, and he took off and scooted, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. He's going to start bucking. I'm going to come off in front of all of these people. And he didn't. I kept his head up, and I stopped him, and she's like, why are you stopping? And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to fall off. I really don't want to fall off.
Yeah. This would
That's
not
what
be
was going
good.
through my mind. I'm sure everybody else was like, why is she stopping? She's finally galloping. And I'm like, oh, I just got to stop and regroup. I'm going to fall off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was really brave because considering the circumstances. So they had a 20 by 60 set up, and then all the way around they had put the VIP tables.
Yeah.
So there were 50 VIP tables surrounding the entire ring. I'm sure you can imagine what that seems like.
And I was guessing they were like 10, 12 feet from the ring. They were pretty close to the ring.
They were not very far. I guess they want to give people a great vantage point, but I thought,
yeah.
Maybe not a great idea with the younger guys, or if a horse was
because the one young horse. Well, yeah, the other young horse, when he didn't want to make the turn in the canner, it was like, oh God, he's going to take up those people sitting in those tables right there. Oh, like, oh crap! Oh yeah, he didn't want to turn. He was trying to turn in the canner. Yeah, he would turn at the last minute, and even Charlotte's like, oh boy, I wouldn't want to sit in that table right there. Like, oh,
you're
boy.
like, thanks, great. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So what is your plan with high voltage this coming year? What's the what's the next stage with him after the clinic?
I want to keep working. The trot that she got at the end of the clinic, I'm like, okay, I've got to figure out how to do this. Because she had got him so engaged in his front end up and starting to develop this expression, which his trot doesn't have the big expression like some of the others. But anyways, I might do the 5-year-olds with him next year. I'm not sure yet. Probably second level. We'll see how strong he gets. Maybe play a little bit with third level. He's thrown out some flying changes on me when I've messed around. So I'll just see. I'll just play by ear, whatever he feels like as we develop and go on and go from there.
Well, we can't wait to keep our eye on you guys. And Nancy, how do our listeners find you online?
I have no website, of course, because I'm not that technically savvy. But they can email me at Ravel97@gmail. It's RHAVEL97@gmail.com.
Fantastic.
Or they could call me.
Yep.
Yeah, or they could call me at 440-567-3057. Either one.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing your experiences. That was fun.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. I appreciate it so much. We had such a great time. I would do it again. I mean, she's awesome. And just watching her ride, watching her ride Evie's horse was amazing. She's an awesome rider and trainer. She had such great ideas. It's like, I got to keep remembering all of this.
Well, good. That's good to know for everybody that can go and see her. Thanks so much, Nancy.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Right after this horseware winter grooming tip, we're going to come back with Canadian superstar rider Tina Irwin.
This winter grooming tip is brought to you by Horsewear Blankets. Joining us are two of the top grooms in the country, Eventer Philip Dutton's groom Emma Ford and Kat Hill from World Class Grooming. Our Horsewear Winter Grooming Tip of the Week is brought to you by Emma, and we are talking about prepping for winter clipping, which a lot of people have to do. And we live in Florida, so I end up clipping my pony twice a year. So talk to us about preparing for it.
Okay, well, if you're in Florida, you're very lucky. You probably can get to wash your horse before you clip all the time. So this is more for people that are in the colder climates and don't have the luxury of a nice heated wash stall. Or maybe a lot of barns don't even have heated water. So this is just a helpful tip on how to best prepare that coat ready for a nice clean clip and hopefully as few track lines as possible. First of all, you want to make sure you curry your horse really, really well to lift up any dirt and debris that's lying at the bottom of their hair. And then you can actually use our winter washing technique, which is toweling off with a damp rag that's been soaked in a bucket of warm water that has detergent and a bit of baby oil in. This helps, again, to lift off that dirt that you've brought up to the surface from your very, very good curry. When the horse is completely dry, you can then go to your witch hazel and wipe them over, and that's another very effective way of lifting up as much dirt as possible. Again, I'd rather use the witch hazel as opposed to rubbing alcohol just because it's more not so tough on the horse's skin and it doesn't dry it out. And then finally, right before you start clipping, you can add a very light finishing spray such as Magic Sheen to aid in your clipping so that the clippers can glide through that coat pretty easily and make short work for you and hopefully have a nice clean clip at the end of it.
Very good, Emma. And of course, after they're clipped, they can wear their horsewear blankets. That's what you're going to need that because it's chilly and they're naked. Well, Emma, where can people find out more about what you guys do?
You can find us on the web or on Instagram and Facebook, all using World Class Grooming.
WorldClassGrooming.com. And don't forget your book. You have an excellent book that would make a wonderful Christmas gift for any of the horse people in your life called World Class Grooming. Check it out there. This tip was brought to you by Horsewear. Have you ever wanted to own your own Rambo? Well, here's your chance. From October 3rd to November 23rd, receive $50 off any Rambo turnout blanket, including the Rambo Duo, the Optimo, the Original, the Supreme, and all the others in the Rambo turnout line. All you have to do is trade in your old turnout from any brand for a horse in need. Simply visit horsewear.com/trade for more information and fill out the form for the voucher you will need to get your $50 off. The complete list of retailers is at horsewear.com/trade as well. Open to U.S. and Canadian residents only. Go to horsewear.com/trade today and replace that blanket with all the holes for one of the best blankets on the market, the Rambo Turnout line.
Well, tonight it is my pleasure to have Tina Irwin from Stony Lake Equestrian Center in Canada on the program. She's an FEI rider, trainer, and competitor, and mom of two little kiddos. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm always in awe of you, Tina. You and I have known each other a long time, and I'm just in awe of how you are just such a great competitor and teacher and wife and mom. So I do have to say that right before we get going.
Well, thank you very much. It's not always easy to balance everything, but you make it work somehow.
Well, you do a great job, and I'm always in awe of what you do. Well, Tina, we were so happy to have you on the show because you have had just a fantastic fall with your horse, Lorenzo. Can you tell us about him and your experience at Dressage at Devon?
Sure, yeah. He's a 9-year-old Oldenburg Gelding by Lorenzo Donnerhall, which we actually imported him from Germany as a 4-year-old. And Jamie, my husband, and I, we found him in Germany He was actually an ex-jumper, and he wasn't too exciting to look at. He was very plain, and he was small, and he really didn't have much of anything that I was looking for. And Jamie got on, and he rode him. And I was talking to some clients, and I wasn't really paying attention. And then I realized that he was riding him for quite some time. And so I thought, well, he must really like him, because normally he doesn't ride a horse very long if he does not. And then he turned to me and he said, I think you need to get on him. So I said, okay. And I got on, and I picked up the reins, and I trotted him on, and I trotted only 3 steps. And I looked at Jamie, and my mouth just dropped, and I said, oh my God, he feels amazing. And he said, yeah, I know. And so then I kind of tried to have more of a poker face, and I continued on, but you couldn't really see what he developed into now, but you could feel the elasticity and the power in his movement. So that was pretty cool. So yeah,
I think I'd have to say that he's not. He is no longer very small or unimpressive. So that's quite a skill to be able to pick out a horse like that. When he didn't really show you what he could be.
Well, to be honest, I don't think we would have picked that out if we hadn't have sat on him, because he really, like I said, he was kind of like the ugly duckling who turned into the beautiful swan. And through the training, he just developed into a really, really cool horse. And, there's always a risk, of course, purchasing a horse like that to see if you can end up bringing that out of them. But it worked in our favor. So it was pretty great.
Well, and quite the swan he has turned into. Tell us about Devin. You crushed it, girl.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a really great season for us. He's been my most successful horse to date. So we have actually won the last 12 competitions, or 12 actual classes consecutively. So we did 3 CDIs in the national show, and we won all of the classes. And so Devin was just the icing on the cake, because it's always a goal to kind of finish off the season and see how you stand up to, most of the competition. It is considered one of the most prestigious shows in North America. So Devin is kind of it. So to go against 40 horses and do well, and then to do well each day we were there was pretty awesome. So we just kind of did our thing and went through the test, and we went, I was just going for clean tests and nothing too extravagant. And I think he's extravagant enough without pushing him into the high gear. And he just was awesome. He handled the atmosphere extremely well, which was another reason I wanted to take him there, to say, okay, this is now the next step in our training, to see you've done really well. Let's now see how you're going to handle people in stadium and, all the action that Devin has. So that was great. We did that, and he did not let me down. That's for sure.
Well, we'll let you brag a little bit. What were the scores are pretty high, were they not?
I think I had a 71 in the St. George, and then I had a 73 something in the I1, and 77 in the freestyle. So I don't remember the decimal points, but yeah, those were great scores. I have to say, I think I had one competition where my scores were a little bit higher. The Cedar Valley competition, CDI here in Newmarket, Ontario, was, I think, our best show so far. We actually received 80% from one of the judges in the freestyle, Peter Storr from Great Britain, and received our first 10 as well. So that was pretty exciting. And exciting for me to see that an international FEI judge, who also, I found out later on, he also has competed and trained many horses to Grand Prix. So an established rider himself, who hasn't really judged us before, gave us those marks. So I thought that was really quite a compliment, and made me really excited about him going forward for the future, because of course the small tour is not the end goal. It's a stepping stone, and obviously we're looking towards trying to make a major team at the Grand Prix level. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. So you went from Devon, went home, and then you went to the Charlotte Clinic. How did that go for you?
So the Charlotte Clinic, we were asked to actually be the demo for Charlotte. Charlotte was going to ride Laurencio and demonstrate the Free St. George movements. And then she ended up just having me ride and give me a lesson. And everybody kind of said, well, why did she do that? I said, I don't know. She didn't want to ride him. And later on, the organizer of the event, Scott Hayes, he said, well, she thought you were doing such a great job with him that she really couldn't do much more. And she thought that you should ride him. So I thought, wow, well,
that's pretty cool.
That's really nice. But I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure Charlotte would have been able to get on and, showcase even more, which I would have loved to see. But I was happy either way. He was, it was fun to ride him in the clinic. There were about 1,000 people there. I think it was one of the best events for dressage that someone has put on in Ontario for sure. And the turnout was amazing, and it was run very, very well. It was first class. I mean, Scott did an amazing job we had 51 VIP tables and other seating and a really great catering company. So, and Charlotte, of course, was the star and was quite funny as a clinician. She really is great entertaining the audience, but also educating the audience. And, she's got a great sense of humor, very British sense of humor, a little bit dry, sarcastic, and had a lot of fun with the riders. So all of the riders were really good sports, I have to say. And
Jamie being a guy, I mean, he also rode and got a little bit more ribbing than all the ladies got, when you say.
Oh, poor Jamie.
Totally. But it was really funny because he handled it so well, and he kind of, played along with it. And I think when you have 98% of the audience being women, you
got to play your audience, right? You got to know your audience.
Really funny.
Yeah. Poor Jamie.
So, he didn't mind. He thought it was good. So yeah, it was great riding with her, and it was really a pleasure and an honor to meet her. And Laurencio handled it like a pro. He just went in, and to be honest, I didn't even feel the difference with him noticing all these people around the ring. He acted like he was at home, which was quite unbelievable, really. So again, really great opportunity to get my horse into situations like that and be able to ride him and feel, what is he going to be like, later on when you go and want to ride in front of thousands of people, not just 1,000 people.
So what were some things that you guys worked on?
So we started in the trot, and one of the things Charlotte liked as a demonstration for the audience was the fact that, I could show a very normal trot, and then I could pick them up and then show more of an expressive trot. And so she had me show that. So I started with a little bit of rising trot and stretching, and then she had me pick him up and show the trot that he has learned and developed through training. And so that was cool. And then we did some of the St. George stuff. We showed some shoulder in and half passes. And most of the things we worked on, she was trying to push me a little bit more for going for more expression and going for more marks, more points. So she said, this is good, but now for extra high points, you've got to go for more and keep them up a little bit more self-carriage. And then we worked on the flying changes, the tempies, and also creating more ground cover, more self-carriage, more expression, and also the same with the canter zigzag in the I-1. We worked on that as well, and just keeping the changes a little bit straighter, especially to the left. So, yeah, we worked on, I think, all the things that we definitely needed work on. So it was really great.
I mean, he looked awesome, and you guys did such a great job. And I thought, what a great opportunity for all the spectators to watch, like really established professionals like yourself still need to sort of work on things and have somebody on the ground. And, I think that's a great lesson too, that, nobody's perfect and everybody's got little things, even if they are just the smallest things, places to pick up points, and that we're all striving to try and be perfect. So I thought you did a really great job of showing everybody that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think it's sometimes not always easy putting yourself out there like that in that kind of a position, because you are there to be picked apart and critiqued. But that being said, I'm very open to that as well. More so, I guess, behind closed doors than really in front of thousands of people for the most part. Like everybody, you don't want to show everyone your mistakes and flaws. But if you're not open-minded and willing to accept criticism, then you're not going to improve and progress in your riding. So that's really important, I think, to have that attitude for sure.
Yeah, and like you said, it is challenging to do it, but that's how people learn, and that's how we all learn. So I think that's
exactly
so cool. I'm sad that I missed it, for sure. So what's your plans with Laurencio? What's the next stage now?
Well, like I said before, the ultimate goal is the Grand Prix. Jamie and I we were asked to do a demonstration at the Royal Winter Fair. For us, that's kind of a big deal here in Toronto. So we will be doing a pas de deux the beginning of November. So we got back from the Charlotte Clinic and we said, we have to quickly put together choreography. And so we're going to do that, which again is going to put the horses in an atmosphere, which is great. So we keep building on that. But after that, they will definitely have a bit of a break. And then we will head to Florida, to Wellington, the beginning of January. And we're there for 3 months. And the plan is to continue training and competing. I don't think I'm going to be competing Laurencio at the small tour anymore. I think we've kind of, done what we can do there. And, now my goal is to move towards the Grand Prix. So he does do all of the Grand Prix, but it is green. And of course it needs to get stronger and better and all of that. So that's the next step. So I'm not sure when exactly we'll come out, probably at an I2 or something like that instead of the Grand Prix right away. And of course in the national division before we do anything internationally. But that is the next step. Of course, with horses, it's hard to tell when exactly. So I don't really have a timeline on it. I'd like to think it would be in Florida, but we'll see how things progress.
That makes total sense. And it does. And it's so cool to see how you're developing him. I mean, obviously with the goal of international sport, but to see how you're kind of very systematically developing him is really, really cool. And it's fun to hear you say that and how are you getting there? And it may, like you said, teaching him just crowds and how to deal with that type of thing is pretty cool to hear. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty lucky in the sense that I'm usually good about things like that. Like sometimes, even at Devon, I said to Jamie, he feels so relaxed in the warm-up. I was like, I hope I'm going to have enough horse. And then I go into the ring and he just, yep, okay, here I go. And he just never lets me down. Like he tries so hard. So it's kind of interesting because when you look at his breeding, Laurencio is actually the grandfather of Laurencio is Loris Crusader, or the father, is Loris Crusader, which is thoroughbred. And then Donnerhall, of course, everyone knows. And Donnerhall is really known for his temperament and rideability. So I think it's a really interesting match because I have the sensitivity, but I have a really amazing brain and rideability. So I literally could put our kids on his back and our daughter, actually, who's 2, she will brush him in the cross ties and she puts the hoof polish on him and does whatever. And he literally does not move a muscle. But if you were to get on him and just touch him with the leg, you don't need the whip. He just flies. So he's really, really sensitive, but it's a really interesting match. So I think that's exactly what you need for the big sport. And just lucky that, we found that.
That is so cool. Well, it's so fun to hear how you've developed a horse like him, and as you're, and seeing him develop. I've seen him in person, and he's a wonderful horse. And we wish you all the best of luck. Tina, how would our listeners find you online?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. I'm actually under my maiden name as well, so it's under Tina Bussa Irwin, and we also have a Facebook page for our stable, which is Stony Lake Equestrian. And we have a website, which is stonylakeequestrian.ca.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you very much for having me. It was really a pleasure.
Well, we convinced Tina to stick around for this week's Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week. I hope you enjoy.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at TotalSaddleFit.com.
Well, for this week's Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week, we have Tina Irwin. She stayed on with us tonight to give us a Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week. So, Tina, talk to us. There was a big tip that came from the Charlotte Dujardin Clinic. Can you fill us all in for the people that weren't there?
Yeah, well, Charlotte said a lot of great things, of course, but one thing she said that, of course, stood out to many of us is about working on transitions and making sure that every single transition is always executed properly. And she was really quite a stickler on that, which, as a coach and trainer myself, I know exactly what she's talking about. As I teach a lot of people each day and riding horses myself. When, you can kind of decide, I'm going to be a little bit lazy and I'm just going to walk, or someone walks into the arena and they want to talk to you for a second. So you slam on the brakes and you don't always make that transition as you should, which is not good because, of course, every time you let your horse get away with these tendencies, it becomes a habit. And then the next time they make a bad transition, you're kind of kicking or smacking the horse and going, hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing that? When really, if you allow them to do these transitions all the time, then it just becomes a habit. So it really is no one's fault but your own. So I think that was a really important tip to stay strict and with our own riding, and also within teaching our students to not be lazy and really try to make every transition every single time perfect, so that when we go into the ring and we make those transitions, we have no surprises and the horse just knows what to do each and every time.
I thought it was really funny in the clinic how she worked the riders very hard and really working on a lot of things. But when they were sort of done with the exercise that they were working on, she would say, okay, and now walk. And almost everybody, I think you were probably not guilty of this, but almost everybody would just sort of, you just walk and you want to take a breather and you want to give your horse the long reins. And almost every time she was like, nope, not good enough. And then all of a sudden now the rider was having to redo the transition and they didn't really get the break they were really looking for. And so I thought that was really, because we all do that, right? We're like, we're working on half pass or working on some flying changes. And then now I just want to walk and have a break. And the horse feels it, right? Feels the rider not sort of paying attention to the detail of that transition. And all of a sudden the horse just sort of falls into transition. And, the rider doesn't always pay attention to that because they're so focused on, the thing they were just doing or what they're going to be doing next. And then that transition turns out to be sort of crummy. And Charlotte was great. She was just like, nope, do it again. And she almost caught everybody. So it was sort of comical. It was a comical moment, but not really, it was like, yeah, this is serious. And you've got to do every transition perfect.
Yes, exactly. She was really paying attention to the detail. And I guess that is what makes her the best rider in the world's double gold medalist. I think we have a lot to learn there. And, she made a good point too, it's so easy to check your phone and do this and do that when you're riding. And we're all guilty of that. And it is such a bad habit because I know I do that for sure, because I look at my walk breaks sometimes as a chance to catch up on other things. And so I've made a mental note and kind of, put that aside and really stay focused. And so, it can happen to all of us, professionals and amateurs, for sure. And so I really agree with Charlotte that it was good to reinforce that, to kind of, we all need to have a little bit of a tune-up, a brush-up, and kind of go, yeah, I am doing that.
A little tap with the whip, right? A little correction.
Yeah. Like Charlotte says, pat the horse, slap the rider. That was one of her phrases.
I like it.
But yeah, it's so good because the horses are just a reflection of us for sure. So if we let them get away with that, then they will take advantage. And I definitely agree. It was really good to reinforce that.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. Right now, we have our final event of the year. So everyone's been coming and really trying to work on their eventing tests and get everything right. And that's been a huge thing this week. I'm like, look, you guys, look at how many scores transitions are in your test. And I would challenge everyone to do it. There's a lot of transition scores in every one of the dressage tests that you do. So you can really, in this case, they're all working on leg yields and counter canter. And I said, well, that's great. But your transition scores are equal to, and you have more of them than you do of the actual kind of harder, in quotation marks, movements. So if you don't pay attention to that stuff, it adds up. And like you said, we're all guilty of it, myself included, all of us. But the week of the horse show is maybe not the time to really focus on it. No. I mean, it helps, but just think about it.
Yeah, it's a bit late.
It's a little late when you're showing on Friday and we're working on it on Tuesday, but better to work on it than never. But that would be also what I would say too, is make sure that you really take your time and you do your due diligence throughout the whole year, not take your cell phone, not answer a call, not stop and talk to your friend, so all of those things. So I think it's just a great reminder, but also something that we all could use. Well, Tina, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. And how do our listeners find you online?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, of course, which is I'm under Tina Busse-Irwin, and also we have a Facebook page for our stable, which is Stony Lake Equestrian, and we have a website, which is stonylakeequestrian.ca.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Well, this week, Phil, we had a great time. We had lots of stuff to talk about the clinic, and like I said, I'm so bummed. I missed it, but it was so fun to hear all the things that came out of the clinic. And as always, we will get to, we love Facebook and email shout outs, and we will get back to those next week. You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter @Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
The best way to get in touch with me is through Facebook, or my email as philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you next week.